Jake Morrison sat in the strange chair, his hands locked in metal restraints that glowed with blue light. The room around him was huge, with walls that seemed to be made of crystal. 12 aliens sat in tall chairs looking down at him like judges in a courtroom. Their eyes were different colors and shapes, some big and round, others long and narrow like a cat's. The alien in the middle was the tallest. Its body looked like it was made of living glass, with light moving through it like water. When it spoke, Jake heard the words in English through a small device stuck to his ear. "Human Jake Morrison," the glass alien said. "You stand accused of attacking our peaceful ships. You destroyed 3 of our vessels and killed 47 crew members. How do you answer these charges?" Jake looked up at the alien without fear. He had been a soldier for 20 years. He had fought in wars on Earth that these aliens probably could not imagine. Being scared now would not help anyone. "I was defending my planet," Jake said. "Your ships came into our space without permission. They were scanning our military bases and our cities. What was I supposed to think?" The aliens whispered to each other in sounds that Jake's translator could not understand. Some of them seemed confused. Others looked angry. The glass alien raised one of its long arms and the room became quiet. "You call this defense?" the alien asked. "Our ships were conducting a standard first contact survey. We always study new species before making official contact. This is how civilized beings behave," Jake almost laughed. These aliens thought they were civilized, but they had never asked Earth if they wanted to be studied. On Earth, when someone pointed cameras at your house and counted your weapons, it usually meant they were planning to rob you. Back on Earth, Amy Collins watched the trial through a video link. She sat in the command center of Earth's space station, surrounded by screens showing data from across the solar system. Amy had been Jake's partner for 5 years. She knew how his mind worked. If Jake had attacked those alien ships, he had a good reason. "Any word from the Council?" asked Captain Lisa Grant, walking into the command center. Lisa was in charge of Earth's space defense. She was the one who had sent Jake to investigate the alien ships in the first place. "Nothing yet," Amy said. "They are still asking him questions. I think they are confused about why he fought back." Lisa nodded. "Humans always confuse aliens. We fight when they expect us to run. We run when they expect us to fight. Maybe that is why we are still alive." On the alien ship, Jake tried to explain human history to beings who had never known war. He told them about the thousands of years humans had spent fighting each other. He talked about how every piece of land on Earth had been fought over at least once. He explained that humans learned to be suspicious because being too trusting meant dying. "Your species still fights wars?" asked one of the aliens. "This one looked like a giant bird with 4 arms. How did you reach space if you have not learned peace?" "We learned to build rockets faster than we learned to stop fighting," Jake said. "Maybe that makes us different from you." The aliens looked at each other again. Jake could see that this idea bothered them. In their experience, species became peaceful before they became advanced. Violent species were supposed to destroy themselves or be destroyed by others. Dr. Kevin Hayes had tried to prepare Jake for this moment. Kevin was Earth's expert on alien life, even though he had never actually met an alien before the ships appeared. Kevin had told Jake that most intelligent species probably evolved differently than humans. They might not understand why humans were so ready to fight. The problem, Jake had told Kevin before leaving Earth, is that being ready to fight is what kept us alive. Every human alive today comes from a long line of people who were good at not dying. Maybe these aliens come from a long line of people who were good at not fighting. Now, sitting in front of the alien court, Jake wondered if Kevin had been right. These aliens seemed to think that violence was always wrong. They could not understand that sometimes violence was the only way to stop worse violence. The glass alien leaned forward in its chair. "Human Morrison, your actions have created a problem for this council. We cannot allow violent species to threaten the peace of our galaxy. But we also cannot ignore that you believed you were defending your world. What happens now?" Jake asked. "We must decide what to do with your species," the alien said. "Earth cannot be allowed to threaten other worlds. But you are the first humans we have met. We need to understand you better before we make our final choice." Jake felt a chill run down his back. These aliens were talking about his entire species like they were deciding what to do with a dangerous animal. On Earth, when people talked like that, it usually meant someone was about to die. Amy Collins felt the same chill as she watched the trial. The way the aliens spoke about humans reminded her of old history books she had read about conquerors, deciding the fate of conquered peoples. The difference was that Earth had not been conquered yet. "Lisa," Amy said, turning to Captain Grant, "I think we need to prepare for the worst case." Lisa looked at the screen showing Earth's small fleet of spaceships. They had 12 ships that could fight in space and maybe 20 more that could be converted for battle. Against an entire galaxy of aliens, it was not much. "What do you think Jake would do?" Lisa asked. Amy thought about her partner. Jake Morrison was not the smartest person she knew, but he was good at surviving impossible situations. He had a talent for finding ways to win when everyone else thought he should lose. "Jake would look for an advantage," Amy said. "He would find something the aliens do not expect and use it against them." "What advantage could we possibly have against aliens who can travel between stars?" Amy looked at the video of Jake sitting calmly in front of 12 powerful aliens who could decide the fate of humanity. He did not look scared. He looked like he was thinking. "I do not know yet," Amy said, "but if there is an advantage to find, Jake will find it." On the alien ship, Jake Morrison sat quietly and listened to the aliens debate his fate and the fate of his entire species. He was thinking about everything he had learned in 20 years of being a soldier. The most important lesson was this: there was always a way to win even when winning seemed impossible. You just had to be willing to do what your enemy would never expect. The trial continued the next day with more aliens asking Jake questions. He learned that the Galactic Council had over 300 member species, and most of them had never fought a war. The idea of attacking first to prevent being attacked was completely foreign to them. "Let me understand this correctly," said an alien that looked like a walking tree with eyes. "Your species attacks anyone who might be a threat even before they actually threaten you?" "We call it being prepared," Jake said. "If someone is pointing a gun at you, you do not wait for them to pull the trigger." "But we were not pointing guns at you," said the bird-like alien from the day before. "We were simply observing your world." Jake tried to stay patient. "You were observing our military bases and counting our weapons. On Earth, that is what enemies do before they attack." The glass alien in the center held up a hand for silence. "Perhaps we should examine the actual events. Show him the recordings." A screen appeared in the air in front of Jake. He watched video from the alien ships showing Earth from space. The ships moved slowly around the planet, taking pictures and scanning with different kinds of sensors. To the aliens, it probably looked like scientific research. To Jake, it looked like an invasion plan being made. "We were following standard first contact procedures," the glass alien explained. "We always study a new species before making direct contact. We need to understand their technology, their society, and their potential threat level." "Threat level?" Jake asked. "So you were deciding if we were dangerous." "All species are evaluated for their potential to disrupt galactic peace," the alien admitted. "Most species are peaceful by the time they develop space travel. Your species appears to be different." Jake was starting to understand the situation better. These aliens had a system for dealing with new species, and part of that system involved deciding who was too dangerous to live. The problem was that humans did not fit their normal pattern. On Earth, Amy Collins was having her own revelations. She had been studying the alien ship designs and technology, with help from Earth's best scientists. What they found was disturbing. "Their weapons are incredibly advanced," reported Dr. Kevin Hayes over the communication link. "But they are designed for precision strikes against specific targets. These are not weapons built for fighting wars. They are weapons built for eliminating problems quickly and quietly." Captain Lisa Grant looked at the data on her screen. "You think they are assassins?" "I think they are used to making species disappear when they become inconvenient," Kevin said. "Look at the design. These ships can destroy a planet's infrastructure without damaging the planet itself. Perfect for removing a civilization while leaving the world ready for new inhabitants." Amy felt sick. "How many species do you think they have eliminated?" "There is no way to know," Kevin said. "But I am starting to think we are not the first species to surprise them with our fighting ability." Back on the alien ship, Jake was learning more about how the galaxy worked. The Galactic Council maintained peace by preventing wars before they started. Species that were too aggressive were removed before they could spread their violence to other worlds. "This has worked for over 1,000 years, the glass alien explained. "We have created a galaxy where billions of beings can live in peace and prosperity." "What about the species who were removed?" Jake asked. "Did they get a choice?" The aliens became uncomfortable. Jake could see it in the way they moved and looked at each other. This was clearly a topic they did not like discussing. Some species choose violence over civilization, the tree-like alien said. They force us to make difficult decisions. Jake nodded slowly. Now he understood what was really happening. The Galactic Council was not just a government. It was a system for controlling who got to survive and who did not. They had created peace by eliminating anyone who might disturb that peace. How many? Jake asked quietly. How many what? The glass alien replied. How many species have you eliminated for being too violent? The room became very quiet. Jake could hear the soft hum of the ship's engines and the quiet breathing of the aliens around him. Finally, the glass alien spoke. 47 species have been removed from the galactic community in the past 1,000 years, it said. Each decision was made after careful consideration and only when no other option existed. Jake did some quick math in his head. That was almost one species eliminated every 20 years. These aliens had turned genocide into a routine administrative procedure. And now you are deciding what to do with humanity, Jake said. Your species presents unique challenges, the glass alien admitted. You achieved space travel while maintaining aggressive tendencies. You attacked our ships without provocation. You represent exactly the kind of threat our system was designed to prevent. But Jake was thinking about something else now. If these aliens had been eliminating violent species for 1,000 years, what had happened to all that violence? In his experience, violence did not just disappear. It went somewhere. Can I ask you something? Jake said. You may ask. In all this time creating your peaceful galaxy, have you ever wondered what you were making yourselves vulnerable to? The aliens looked confused. This was clearly not a question they had expected. Vulnerable to what? Asked the bird-like alien. To something worse than the species you eliminated, Jake said. You have been removing all the fighters from your galaxy for 1,000 years. What happens when something shows up that you cannot negotiate with or eliminate quietly? What happens when you need warriors and discover you have gotten rid of all of them? The glass alien's light flickered in what might have been confusion or concern. We have sufficient defensive capabilities. Do you? Jake asked. Your ships are built for precision strikes against helpless targets. Your species have not fought real wars in centuries. You have created a galaxy full of sheep and you are proud of it. But what happens when the wolves come back? On Earth, Amy Collins was thinking along similar lines. She had been studying reports of unexplored regions of the galaxy, areas where even the Galactic Council did not go. The official explanation was that these regions were empty or uninteresting, but Amy had learned not to trust official explanations. Lisa, she called to Captain Grant. I want to see the deep space monitoring data from the last 50 years. What are you looking for? Patterns. If the Council has been eliminating violent species for 1,000 years, some of them might have escaped. They might have found places to hide and grow stronger. Lisa pulled up the data on the main screen. Amy studied the readings carefully, looking for anything unusual. After an hour of searching, she found what she was looking for. There, she said, pointing to a section of the data. Look at this region. The Council calls it empty space, but we are detecting energy signatures that suggest large-scale industrial activity. Maybe it is a Council project they do not want to talk about, Lisa suggested. Or maybe, Amy said, it is all the violent species they tried to eliminate, working together and planning their revenge. The implications were terrifying. If Amy was right, the Galactic Council had not created peace. They had created a powder keg, and humanity might be the spark that set it off. A different alien came to see Jake that night. This one was smaller than the others, with thick scales and yellow eyes like a snake. It moved quietly and kept looking around as if it was afraid of being watched. My name is Krathvin, the alien said in a whisper. I am the military advisor to the Council. We need to talk privately. Jake was moved to a smaller room with no cameras or recording devices. Krathvin sealed the door and activated a device that made a soft humming sound. This will prevent others from hearing us, Krathvin explained. What I'm about to tell you could get us both killed. Jake leaned forward. Finally, someone was going to tell him the truth. The Council is afraid of your species, Krathvin began, but not for the reasons they told you. Your attack on our ships was not the problem. The problem is that your species survived when it should have been eliminated decades ago. What do you mean? Krathvin pulled out a device and showed Jake a holographic display. It showed the solar system with Earth at the center. 43 years ago, we detected radio signals from your world, Krathvan said. The signals showed that your species was technologically advanced, but still engaged in warfare. According to our protocols, Earth should have been sterilized immediately. Jake felt cold. Why wasn't it? Bureaucracy, Krathvan said with what might have been a laugh. The paperwork was filed incorrectly. Your solar system was listed as uninhabited. By the time someone noticed the mistake, your species had developed nuclear weapons. We decided it was too risky to attack you directly. So you waited. We waited for you to destroy yourselves. Most violent species do. We expected humanity to be extinct within 50 years. Jake thought about all the wars and conflicts on Earth over the past 50 years. Humanity had come close to destroying itself several times, but they had always pulled back from the edge. Instead, you became stronger, Krathvan continued. You developed space travel while maintaining your military capabilities. This should have been impossible according to our models. Why are you telling me this? Krathvan's scales changed color, becoming darker. Because we need your help and you need to understand what you are really facing. The alien activated another display. This one showed a map of the galaxy with different colored regions. The red areas are what we call the dark zones, Krathvan explained. They are regions of space that we avoid. Officially, they are empty or too dangerous to explore. What is really there? The survivors, Krathvan said quietly. Species that escaped our elimination efforts. For 1,000 years, we have been forcing the most violent and capable races in the galaxy to work together in exile. They call themselves the Void Hunters. Jake studied the map. The red zones covered almost a quarter of the galaxy. How many species are we talking about? At least 30 races that we know of. Possibly more. They have had centuries to develop new technologies and plan their revenge. And now they are coming back? Krathvan nodded. 3 months ago, we lost contact with the outer colonies near the dark zones. 2 weeks ago, entire star systems went silent. The Void Hunters are no longer content to hide. Jake was beginning to understand why the Council was really afraid of humanity. It was not just that humans were violent. It was that humanity represented something the Council had tried to eliminate, a species capable of fighting back. You want us to fight them, Jake said. We want you to teach us how to fight them. Krathvan corrected. The Council species have been peaceful for so long that we have forgotten how to wage war. Our ships are designed for quick strikes against defenseless targets. Our strategies are based on overwhelming technological superiority against primitive opponents, but the Void Hunters are not primitive, and no, they are the best warriors from dozens of different species, working together and planning for centuries. They have technologies we have never seen and tactics we do not understand. On Earth, Colonel Pete Johnson was coordinating with military leaders from every nation. The revelation that humanity was being evaluated by alien judges had united the world in a way that nothing else had ever accomplished. What do we know about their military capabilities? Asked General Maria Santos from the Brazilian Space Command intelligence officer Tony Miller, pulled up a holographic display showing the alien ships Jake had encountered. Their technology is advanced, but it is designed for specific purposes. Long-range precision strikes, planetary sterilization, infrastructure destruction. These are not ships built for fighting other warships. They are built for murdering helpless civilians, said Colonel Danny Wright from the European Defense Force. Which means they have never fought anyone who could fight back. Pete Johnson nodded. That might be our advantage. If these Void Hunters are really coming, the Council is going to need warriors. And warriors are something humanity knows how to produce. Back on the Council ship, Jake was learning more disturbing details about the galactic situation. How long do we have? He asked Krathvan. Unknown. The Void Hunters have been silent for 50 years. We thought they were finally extinct. Instead, they were preparing. Our intelligence suggests they have been building a massive fleet in the deep regions of the dark zones. How massive? Possibly thousands of ships. Maybe tens of thousands. We do not know because we have been too afraid to investigate. Jake almost laughed. So you eliminated all the violent species to create peace, but you were too scared to make sure they were actually gone? Krathvan's scales changed color again. The Council believed that exile was sufficient. We underestimated their ability to survive and adapt. You underestimated warriors, Jake corrected. That is what happens when you eliminate all the people who understand fighting. You lose the ability to think like fighters. Which is why we need humanity, Krathvan said. Your species still thinks like warriors. You understand conflict in ways we have forgotten. Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking about the implications. Humanity was being offered a choice: join the galactic community as defenders or be eliminated as a threat. What guarantee do we have that you won't eliminate us after we help you deal with the Void Hunters? None, Krathvin admitted. But consider this. If the Void Hunters succeed, they will destroy the Council and take over the galaxy. Your species will be hunted down and eliminated anyway. At least with us, you have a chance to survive and shape the future. It was not a good choice, but Jake had been in situations before where all the choices were bad. The trick was to find a way to turn a bad situation into an advantage. I need to communicate with Earth, Jake said. My people need to understand what they are choosing. That can be arranged. But understand that time is running short. Our scouts report massive energy signatures moving toward inhabited space. The Void Hunters are coming, whether we are ready or not. Jake looked at the galaxy map again, studying the red zones where humanity's potential allies were hiding. The irony was not lost on him. The Council had spent 1,000 years creating the perfect enemy by forcing all the galaxy's warriors to work together. Now they needed humanity to help them fight the monster they had created. There is one more thing you should know, Krathvin said as he prepared to leave. The Void Hunters have been monitoring Council communications for decades. They know about Earth, they know about you. What does that mean? It means they see humanity as either a potential ally or a major threat. When they come, they will not ignore your species. You will have to choose a side. As Krathvin left, Jake sat alone and thought about the choice facing humanity. They could join the Council and help fight the Void Hunters, knowing they might be eliminated later. Or they could try to stay neutral and hope the galaxy forgot about them. But Jake knew there was a third option, one that neither the Council nor the Void Hunters were expecting. Humanity could choose their own side. The emergency alarm started while Jake was still talking to Earth on the communication link. Red lights flashed throughout the Council ship, and alien voices spoke rapidly in languages his translator could not keep up with. Krathvin burst into the room where Jake was being held. "They are here," the alien said, his scales now completely black with fear. "The Void Hunters have begun their attack." Through the ship's viewing port, Jake could see explosions in the distance. Bright flashes of light marked where Council ships were dying. The attack was happening faster than anyone had expected. On Earth, Admiral Susan Clark was watching the same battle through long-range sensors. She had been preparing for this moment since Jake's first report about the galactic situation. Earth's small fleet was already moving toward the battle zone. "Are we really going to help them?" asked Captain Ryan Cooper, commander of Earth's newest battleship. "These aliens were planning to eliminate our entire species." "The enemy of my enemy is my friend," Susan replied. "Besides, if the Void Hunters win, they will come for us eventually anyway." The Earth fleet consisted of 12 ships built with human military thinking. They were smaller than the alien vessels, but heavily armed and designed for real combat. Not the precision strikes the Council preferred. Jake watched the battle unfold from the Council ship's command center. The Void Hunter ships were unlike anything he had seen before. They moved in perfect coordination, using tactics that reminded him of wolf packs hunting prey. "How many ships do they have?" Jake asked Krathvin. "Our sensors detect at least 3,000 vessels in the first wave alone," Krathvin replied. "We have maybe 800 ships in this sector." The numbers were bad, but Jake had seen worse odds before. "What about the Council fleet? How do they fight?" "Watch," Krathvin said, pointing to the display screen. Jake watched as Council ships formed neat lines and began firing their precision weapons at long range. It was like watching a military parade, not a battle. The ships stayed in formation and followed predictable patterns. The Void Hunters responded by splitting into small groups and attacking from multiple directions at once. They used the Council's own orderly tactics against them, surrounding and destroying the alien ships one group at a time. "They fight like amateurs," Jake muttered. "No wonder the Void Hunters are winning." On Earth's lead ship, Captain Lisa Park was analyzing the same battle data. She had been a fighter pilot before becoming a ship commander, and she recognized what she was seeing. "The Council ships are sitting ducks," she reported to Admiral Clark. "They are fighting like this is a training exercise, not a real battle." "What about the Void Hunters? Professional, experienced. They know exactly what they are doing." Admiral Clark made a decision that would change the course of the battle. "All ships, this is Admiral Clark. We're going to show both sides how humans fight. Follow my lead. The Earth ships approached the battle zone at maximum speed, ignoring the neat formations the Council preferred. Instead, they spread out and began attacking the Void Hunter ships from unexpected angles. Captain Danny Wright, commanding the Earth ship Defiance, found himself facing 3 enemy vessels at once. Instead of retreating, he ordered his ship to charge straight at them while firing everything they had. "Are you crazy?" asked his second-in-command, Lieutenant Amy Foster. "No," Danny replied. "I am human." The Void Hunter ships had never faced an opponent that attacked when outnumbered. They tried to surround the human ship, but Danny changed direction at the last second and rammed one of the enemy vessels while his weapons destroyed. Similar scenes played out across the battlefield as human ships engaged the Void Hunters using tactics that neither side had expected. The humans fought like they were outnumbered and desperate, because that was how they had always fought on Earth. Jake watched in amazement as the Earth fleet turned the tide of the battle. The human ships were taking heavy damage, but they were also destroying enemy vessels at a rate that shocked both the Council and the Void Hunters. "How do they do that?" asked the glass alien that had been judging Jake. The Council leader had come to the command center to watch the battle. "They fight like they have nothing to lose," Jake replied. "Because that is how humans have always fought." But the battle was far from over. Even as the human ships were winning local victories, more Void Hunter fleets were arriving. The enemy had spent centuries planning this attack, and they had brought overwhelming force. Commander Tony Miller, leading a squadron of Earth fighters, found himself surrounded by enemy ships. His squadron was down to 3 fighters, and they were almost out of ammunition. "This is Miller to all Earth ships," he broadcast. "We are not going to make it out of this one, but we are going to make it count." Miller's fighters dove toward the largest Void Hunter ship in the area, a massive vessel that seemed to be coordinating the enemy attack. The alien ship fired at them with weapons that could destroy a small moon, but the human fighters were too fast and too unpredictable. Miller's fighter was hit just as he reached the enemy ship. With his engines failing and his weapons empty, he made a choice that no Void Hunter had expected. He flew his damaged fighter directly into the alien ship's command center. The explosion took out the enemy flagship and disrupted the Void Hunter attack formation. Other human pilots saw what Miller had done and began making similar attacks. Within minutes, several major enemy ships had been destroyed by human pilots who were willing to sacrifice themselves to win. The Void Hunters had never faced opponents who fought this way. Their tactics were based on defeating enemies who wanted to survive. They did not know how to fight people who were willing to die to achieve victory. On the Council ship, Jake was getting reports from all across the galaxy. The Void Hunter attack was happening everywhere at once, but human intervention was making a difference in several key battles. "Your people are insane," Krathvin said, but there was respect in his voice. "No," Jake corrected. "We are human. There is a difference, but even human courage had limits. The Earth fleet was being destroyed piece by piece. They were inflicting heavy damage on the enemy, but they were vastly outnumbered." Admiral Clark sent a message to all human ships. "This is Admiral Clark to all Earth forces. We came here to prove that humanity deserves a place in this galaxy. I think we have made our point. All ships fall back to defensive positions around Earth." Captain Ryan Cooper responded immediately. "Negative, Admiral. We did not come this far to run home now. All human ships continue the attack." One by one, the other ship commanders responded with similar messages. They had seen what the Void Hunters were capable of. They knew that retreating now would only delay the inevitable. If humanity was going to die, they would die fighting. The battle raged for 6 more hours. When it was over, most of the human fleet was gone, but they had accomplished something that no one had thought possible. They had stopped the Void Hunter advance. Of the 3,000 enemy ships in the first wave, less than half remained operational. The Council fleet had been saved from complete destruction. And most importantly, the galaxy had seen what humans were capable of. As Jake looked at the battle reports, he realized that everything had changed. The Council could no longer dismiss humanity as primitive barbarians. The Void Hunters could no longer ignore Earth as irrelevant. "What happens now?" Jake asked Krathvin. "Now," the alien replied, "we find out if your species can teach the rest of us how to fight like humans." In the ruins of the battlefield, Captain Lisa Park was the senior surviving human officer. Her ship was badly damaged, but she was still alive and still fighting. "This is Captain Park to all surviving Council ships," she broadcast. "If you want to learn how to beat these Void Hunters, you better start listening to us humans, because this was just the first wave, and they are going to keep coming." The real war was just beginning. 3 weeks after the first battle, Jake Morrison stood in front of the rebuilt Galactic Council. This time he was not a prisoner. He wore the uniform of Earth Space Defense Force and carried the rank of general, appointed by the Council itself to coordinate the galaxy's defense. The chamber looked different now. Instead of 12 judges looking down on him, Jake faced representatives from hundreds of species, all of them asking the same question: how do we fight like humans? "The first thing you need to understand," Jake began, "is that humans do not fight to win. We fight to not lose." "There is a big difference." The aliens looked confused, which Jake had expected. He activated a holographic display showing the recent battle. "When my people attacked your ships 3 weeks ago, we were not trying to defeat a superior enemy. We were trying to make sure that if we died, we would hurt you enough that you would think twice about attacking Earth." The glass alien that had originally judged him raised a crystalline hand. "But surely the goal of combat is victory." "The goal of combat is survival," Jake corrected. "Victory is just the best way to survive. But if you cannot win, you fight to make the enemy pay such a high price that they decide you are not worth fighting." Admiral Susan Clark had arrived from Earth, with the surviving human ships and a plan that made most of the Council members uncomfortable. She stood beside Jake as he explained human military doctrine to beings who had never fought a real war. "The Void Hunters have superior numbers and technology," Susan said. "In a traditional battle, they will destroy us eventually. So we are not going to fight traditional battles." She activated another display showing the galaxy's star map. Red markers showed where Void Hunter fleets had been detected. Blue markers showed Council positions. "We are going to use the one advantage we have," Susan continued. "They think like conquerors. We think like survivors." Captain Ryan Cooper had spent the past 3 weeks training alien crews on human tactics. It was frustrating work. The aliens had spent so long avoiding conflict that they had forgotten basic military principles. "No, no, no," Ryan said to a group of bird-like alien pilots. "When the enemy expects you to retreat, you attack. When they expect you to attack, you retreat. The key is to never do what they think you will do." One of the aliens raised a wing hand. "But how do we know what they expect us to do?" "You think like them," Ryan replied. "What would you expect from someone in your position? Then you do something else." It was a concept that the aliens struggled with. Their peaceful nature made it hard for them to think like their enemies. But some of them were learning. On Earth, the entire human military was being restructured for space warfare. Colonel Pete Johnson was working with leaders from every nation to build ships and train crews for the coming battles. "How many ships can we have ready in 6 months?" asked General Maria Santos. "Maybe 200, Pete replied. "But they will be better ships than what we had before. We are learning from the alien technology we captured." The captured Void Hunter ships had provided valuable intelligence. Human engineers were studying the enemy technology and finding ways to adapt it for human use. More importantly, they were finding weaknesses. Dr. Kevin Hayes had been analyzing Void Hunter battle tactics and making disturbing discoveries. "They fight like a single organism," he reported to Jake over the communication link. "Every ship knows what every other ship is doing. Their coordination is perfect." "That sounds like an advantage," Jake replied. "It is until someone finds a way to disrupt their communication system. Then their perfect coordination becomes a weakness." Jake smiled. "How long would it take to build a jamming device?" "Give me 6 weeks and about half of Earth's electronics industry." The next major battle came sooner than expected. Void Hunter fleets appeared simultaneously at 12 different Council worlds, forcing the defenders to split their forces. Jake found himself commanding a mixed fleet of human and alien ships at the defense of Centauri Prime, a major Council colony world. The enemy had brought over 500 ships. Jake had less than 100. "This is General Morrison to all ships," Jake broadcast. "Remember what we practiced. Do not fight their battle. Fight our battle." Instead of meeting the enemy in traditional formation, the human-led fleet scattered across the solar system. They used asteroids and the planet's moons as cover, forcing the Void Hunters to split up to chase them. Captain Julie Foster, commanding the Earthship Relentless, found herself hiding behind Centauri Prime's largest moon with a squadron of alien fighters. "All ships, this is Foster. Wait for my signal." The Void Hunter ships moved past the moon in perfect formation, exactly as Jake had predicted. They were so confident in their superiority that they did not bother to check for hidden enemies. "Now," Julie broadcast. The hidden ships attacked from behind, destroying 6 enemy vessels before the Void Hunters could respond. Then they scattered again, forcing the enemy to chase them through the asteroid field. Commander Lisa Davis was leading a different part of the battle plan. Her job was to test Dr. Kevin Hayes' jamming device. She flew her ship directly at the center of the enemy formation, while broadcasting a powerful signal designed to disrupt Void Hunter communications. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The perfectly coordinated enemy fleet suddenly began moving erratically. Ships collided with each other. Attack formations fell apart. For the first time in the war, the Void Hunters looked confused. "It works," Lisa broadcast to the fleet. "The jamming device works. They cannot coordinate without their communications." Jake saw the opportunity immediately. "All ships concentrate fire on the command vessels. Without their leaders, the rest will not know what to do." The battle turned into a rout. With their communications disrupted and their command ships destroyed, the individual Void Hunter vessels reverted to simple attack patterns that human tactics could easily counter. But the victory came at a cost. Lisa Davis's ship was destroyed while maintaining the jamming signal. Captain Julie Foster was killed when her ship rammed an enemy cruiser to save a transport full of civilian refugees. On 12 different worlds, similar battles were being fought. Human commanders were teaching alien crews how to think like guerrilla fighters instead of traditional soldiers. Some battles were won, some were lost, but in every case the Void Hunters paid a heavy price for their victories. After 6 months of constant warfare, both sides were exhausted. The Void Hunters had conquered several Council worlds, but their fleets had been reduced by more than half. The Council had held most of their territory, but at the cost of thousands of ships and millions of lives. Jake stood once again before the Galactic Council, but this time he was not alone. With him were Admiral Susan Clark, Captain Ryan Cooper, and dozens of other human officers who had become the backbone of the galaxy's defense. "The war is not over," Jake told the assembled aliens, "but we have proven something important. The Void Hunters can be defeated. They are not unstoppable." The glass alien that had once judged Jake now looked to him for advice. "What do we do next, General Morrison?" "We take the fight to them," Jake replied. "For 1,000 years, the Void Hunters have been building their strength in the dark zones. It is time to find their home base and destroy it." It was a plan that would have been unthinkable to the Council 6 months earlier. Attack the enemy in their own territory? The peaceful aliens would never have considered such a thing, but they had learned from humanity. They had learned that sometimes the only way to achieve peace was to fight for it. Admiral Susan Clark stepped forward. "Earth is prepared to lead the attack on the dark zones, but we will need every ship the Council can spare." "You will have them," the glass alien promised. "Humanity has earned the right to lead this war." As Jake looked around the chamber at hundreds of alien species that had once considered humanity too violent to survive, he realized how much everything had changed. The galaxy was still at war, but it was no longer a hopeless war. Humans had not just joined the galactic community. They had become its protectors. The species that had once been too dangerous to live had become the one species that others could not live without. The war against the Void Hunters would continue. There would be more battles, more losses, more difficult choices. But for the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy had hope, and that hope had a name: humanity. Captain Tony Miller, one of the few survivors from the first battle, summed it up best in his report to Earth. "We came to the stars to find our place in the galaxy. It turns out our place was to teach the galaxy how to fight for itself. The age of peace through strength had begun, and humanity was leading the way."